Hey guys, and welcome to the first ever preview we will be doing on this channel. We are starting off with the one and only, my home Grand Prix, the Canadian Grand Prix this weekend. Now, I just want to point out that I am wearing my Toronto Raptors t-shirt, so shout out Kawhi Leonard for making all of our dreams come true back in 2018.
Defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
And my co-host from now on for these previews will be Enzo the Bear. He is a Ferrari fan, if you can't notice, but he'll try to be as unbiased as possible as we do these previews throughout the season. Now, before anything else, let's go over the standings going into the Canadian Grand Prix. So after Monaco last weekend, we saw Leclerc close the gap a little bit to Verstappen, but Verstappen's still leading the championship fairly comfortably at the moment. He has 169 points, and Leclerc is in second place with 138 points. Behind him in third place, we now have Lando Norris with 113 points. Monaco saw the gap decrease between Leclerc and Verstappen, Leclerc having won the race and Verstappen only managing to finish 6th. But the gap is still fairly large, and I'm sure Verstappen's not too worried. If, however, we do get Leclerc getting on the podium or consistently beating Verstappen over the next couple races, then we'll truly have a championship battle on our hands. Now to Canada, another classic street circuit, but this is one people actually like. It's a 4.3 kilometer, 14 turn circuit with 70 laps and a lot of great racing. Now, this by no means makes it an easy circuit. In fact, it's actually quite a tough circuit. I mean, there's a portion of the track that's called the Wall of Champions, so you know it can't be easy if it's a wall of champions. There's 2 long straights, which offers a great opportunity for some overtaking, and there's actually 2 DRS detection zones with 3 DRS activation zones, which again makes it very possible to overtake on these long straights. However, this can also cause a DRS train, and if you have a car with a quick high top speed, see Alex Albon a couple years ago, then they could basically park their car and hold off the rest of the field and cause a DRS train, and this might be pretty boring. Hopefully this isn't the case. And here are just a couple fun facts about the Canadian Grand Prix. It's been on the calendar since 1967, and there's only been 5 times since then that it hasn't been held, meaning that this is going to be the 53rd time that we see it in the F1 championship. Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton are the most successful drivers in Canada, both having won the race 7 times each. On top of that, 6 drivers have gotten their maiden win in Canada, the most famous or most recent being, of course, Daniel Ricciardo with Red Bull back in 2014, which actually marks the 10-year anniversary just this year. And speaking of Daniel Ricciardo, whose last race win actually came with McLaren, well, McLaren is actually the most successful team in Canada, having 13 wins in total, closely followed by Ferrari with 12 wins, who I'm sure Enzo is hoping will make it 13 this weekend. Now for pit strategy, this is one of the races where we can actually see things decided by your pit strategy. Last year, race winner Max Verstappen opted for a 2-stop strategy. He started the race on the medium C4 tires, then switched over to the hard C5 tires, just to switch back to the medium C4 tires to finish off the race. Another potential strategy would be deciding to just try to 1-stop it, go for a long medium stint onto a hard tire, or maybe some drivers might decide to go for a medium or hard tire at the beginning, take it as long as possible, hoping for a safety car, which could be in their favor. Now, this may be a gamble, as it is with any race where you're trying to go long, hoping for something that's out of your control to happen, but to top things off, the weather comes into play as well. The past 2 seasons in Canada, we have had some sort of wet race or wet qualifying session, and oh yeah, guess what? This weekend the forecast is wet once again in Montreal. Now, if it's raining all day, this won't be that complicated because you just start on the wetter intermediates, switch onto another set of wetter intermediates, and continue like that. But what if it starts dry, and then we have a sprinkle of rain, and then it's dry again, and then more rain? The drivers have to think on their toes in the cockpit at the moment, based on that real track data that they have right in front of them, and decide when the right moment is to switch onto the wet tires, when the right moment is to switch off the wet tires. That would make the race so entertaining to watch because we really can't plan these types of things, and that's where the spur of the moment decisions can make or break your race. As with any race, we do have to talk about some of the teams bringing some upgrades, and before we get into the top 4 teams, I am going to mention Williams, who seem to be bringing a pretty large upgrade here in Canada. I did mention how Alex Albon held off the field with that really quick car last year. Well, he ended up finishing 7th, which was one of the best results in recent Williams history. So I know they would love to repeat that result this year, but given their past performance so far throughout this year, it doesn't seem that likely. Now, the fact that they're bringing these updates, which they hope will combat their overweight issue, because their chassis is very heavy. That car is overweight, and they're saying they're losing quite a lot of time from this issue. So what they're hoping will happen here is having focus on reducing that weight and improving the aerodynamics, the flow of the car. They're hoping that that weight reduction won't necessarily be that large. The bonus, the increase that they have from the aerodynamic flow, will help counteract and outweigh this weight issue, so that they'll be going quicker and finding time. As for the top 4 teams, in 4th position we have Mercedes, who say they are on the right path in the right direction. But Mercedes have been saying this for the past 3 seasons, so take it with a grain of salt. Although we did see that they are starting to get a bit closer to the top 3 teams. In Monaco they did fairly well, but again, Monaco is a very track specific circuit. You can't necessarily take that as an indicator for the whole season. They've brought wing upgrades, they've brought slight floor upgrades. They're just hoping again to work on that aerodynamic flow of the car as well. They do say, however, they have found the problems with the car and are now going in the right direction with the development. So it will be interesting to see how this pans out at Canada. They've said that they have upgrades coming every week over the next couple races. Now, I think they're going to hold off on the big upgrade, which I'm not sure what that is yet, but there is going to be some big upgrade. And knowing them, they'd probably love to have that before or even at Silverstone, being a home race for both of their drivers. Doesn't matter. With the upgrades they're bringing this week and the upgrades they brought over the last couple races, they should be closing the gap even further towards the top 3 teams in front. They may not be right on par with them, but it should be closer. McLaren is still probably shocked with how well their upgrades are working. They've been consistently bringing upgrades over the past couple months, and these upgrades have seen them win in Miami, seen them almost win at Imola, seen them have a chance to fight for a win at Monaco, so there's nothing more you could want. Now obviously they're going to keep pushing, keep bringing more upgrades, keep trying to get closer to Ferrari, if not already on par with Ferrari, and closer to Red Bull, because over the past couple races, we can finally say that we are no longer certain that we're going to go into a weekend, Red Bull's going to dominate, Red Bull's going to win, it's over. No, we have a 3-way battle on our hand, and Fred Vasseur even said this a couple of days ago. He thinks that this race in Canada will be a battle between these 3 teams as well. So there's no more downplaying just how bad these teams are. Now we know that they're close to being on par, and we have an interesting season once again. I can easily see McLaren fighting for at least 1 podium spot, if not more. Now I can say the same thing for Ferrari, who might not be bringing upgrades this weekend, but they've brought upgrades in the previous weekends, especially their large upgrade in Imola, which might not have shown too much performance at that race. But Charles Leclerc won at Monaco, and if that isn't proof that whatever they did is working, the upgrades are phenomenal. We'll see how they do in Canada when it's, again, less track specific, but I'm pretty happy with the performance, and Enzo himself was extremely happy. I couldn't get him to stop partying after the victory in Monaco. Red Bull, on the other hand, aren't bringing too many upgrades. They've been focusing on their floor. They're trying to raise that car, the height of the car, so that they can do better with the curves, which has been a constant complaint in Imola, in Monaco. They aren't happy with that. Now, the problem with that, as Helmut Marko himself has said, is that if they continue to try to raise the car, then they're going to be losing downforce, which will take away for car performance. So it's a give and take situation. I think they're at a sort of roadblock at the moment. Again, they probably didn't expect the other teams to be closing in just this quickly, this fast, but it shouldn't really matter, because even on pure pace alone, they'll probably be right at the top, if not winning, then definitely fighting for wins. However, I don't think this will be a weekend where we see a pure Red Bull domination from start to finish. Now, I'm going to be making some predictions before we see any on-track action, so please bear with me and don't get mad at me if these are way off. Again, I have no clue what's going to happen, but these may be crazy or they may not be so crazy. If it's a dry race, I think we'll see a podium of Leclerc, Norris, and Piastri. Oscar Piastri doesn't get talked about enough because he's paired up with Norris, but he is so quick and so comfortable in that car, and that McLaren is a rocket ship at the moment. Given the fact that Red Bull haven't been able to figure out those curbs yet, and this is a circuit where you have to take some curbs, they may not be so pacey or so quick, and they may struggle once again. Now, if it rains, I don't think Leclerc will even be in the top 3, because he's a phenomenal driver and I do love him, but I don't think driving in wet conditions is necessarily his strong suit. If it rains, I think Verstappen will have this race in the bag. He's extremely quick in wet conditions, he's composed, he knows what he's doing, he grew up in the Netherlands. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's accustomed to a little water. Now, I do think this weekend Piastri will be beaten by Norris, not because Piastri is not quick enough, just because Norris is going to be so hungry to be showing once again that he can fight for the podiums and for potential race victories, as we have now seen. But to back up my words, I will be posting my bets for the Canadian Grand Prix as a post on my, I don't even know what it's called, on my channel, where you can post stuff through text. I'll be posting the bet I make after the qualifying session on Saturday evening, so you can check that out and follow my bet, and hopefully, if we're lucky, also make some money from our predictions and put our money where our mouth is. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please make sure to do that. We will be doing a live stream after the race discussing what happened throughout the race, and there will be one Formula 1 video every week, regardless if it's a story, a narrative, some news popping out, these race previews. So please make sure to subscribe. Tell your friends. We're almost at 300 subscribers, so it would mean a lot to me if you do subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys. See you again on Sunday after the race, and enjoy the race weekend. Bye.